The painting you're looking at right now was created sometime between 1819 and 1823, and its title is Saturn Devouring His Son. In it, we see a giant emerging from complete darkness. His eyes are wide open, almost bulging from their sockets. His hair hangs wildly around his face, and his body appears skeletal, more like a creature than a man. Clutched tightly in his hands is the mutilated body of another human figure. The giant is actively devouring it. There is no landscape, no background, no indication of where this scene takes place. Only darkness. The figure seems suspended in an endless void, illuminated by a harsh light that reveals every horrifying detail. What makes this image particularly unsettling is its expression. The giant does not appear calm or triumphant. Instead, he looks terrified. His eyes are filled with panic. His mouth is frozen in a desperate act. It is as though he fears something even more frightening than the violence he is committing. And that is exactly what makes this painting so powerful. The figure we are looking at is Saturn, known in Greek mythology as Cronus, one of the ancient titans who ruled the world before the Olympian gods. According to the myth, Saturn received a prophecy that one day one of his own children would overthrow him and take his place. Terrified by this prediction, he decided to prevent it from ever coming true. Each time one of his children was born, he swallowed them, one after another, not because he hated them, but because he feared them. For Saturn, every child represented a threat to his power. Every newborn was a reminder that his reign would not last forever. And so, rather than accept his fate, he attempted to destroy the future itself. This story was well known throughout Europe when Francisco Goya painted it. In fact, many artists had represented the same myth before him. One of the most famous examples was painted by Peter Paul Rubens nearly 2 centuries earlier. In Rubens' version, Saturn appears powerful and almost godlike. The scene is dramatic, but it still follows the conventions of classical mythology. Goya's version is completely different. He strips away all traces of grandeur. There are no elegant robes, no majestic setting, no heroic atmosphere. Instead, Saturn has become something monstrous. He resembles a starving animal more than a deity. And perhaps that is precisely the point, because this painting is not really about mythology, at least not entirely. It is also about fear, the fear of losing power, the fear of growing old, the fear of being replaced, and perhaps most of all, the fear of the future. What makes this interpretation especially interesting is the period in which the painting was created. By the time Goya painted Saturn Devouring His Son, he was already one of the most famous artists in Spain. He had painted kings, aristocrats, and members of the royal court. But the man who created this work was very different from the successful court painter he had once been. Years earlier, Goya had suffered a severe illness that left him permanently deaf. Spain itself was also undergoing immense turmoil. Wars, political repression, violence, and social unrest had transformed the country. Goya witnessed many of these events firsthand. And as he grew older, his work became increasingly dark. In 1819, he purchased a house outside Madrid. The house was known as the Quinta del Sordo, or the House of the Deaf Man. It was there that he created a series of works now known as the Black Paintings. Unlike most masterpieces hanging in museums today, these paintings were never intended for public exhibition. Goya painted them directly onto the walls of his own home. Imagine entering a room and seeing scenes of madness, witches, violence, and despair covering the walls. And among all of them, none is more disturbing than Saturn Devouring His Son. What is remarkable is that the painting was hidden from the public for decades. Visitors never lined up to see it. Critics never reviewed it. Collectors never commissioned it. It was a private work, something created for reasons that remain largely unknown. That mystery has fueled endless interpretations. Some historians believe Saturn represents political power consuming its own people. Spain had endured years of war and repression, and many see the giant as a symbol of rulers destroying the very society they govern. Others believe the painting reflects Goya's fear of aging and mortality. After all, Saturn is desperately attempting to stop time. He is trying to prevent the next generation from replacing him. Yet in doing so, he becomes a monster. There is another interpretation that many viewers find particularly compelling. The painting can be seen as a warning about obsession itself. Saturn becomes so consumed by the fear of losing control that he destroys the very things he seeks to protect. His actions guarantee the tragedy he hopes to avoid. And this idea extends far beyond mythology. Throughout history, individuals, governments, and entire civilizations have often harmed themselves in their attempts to preserve power. The myth survives because its message remains relevant. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of this painting is how little certainty exists about its meaning. Goya never left behind an explanation. He never told us exactly what Saturn represented. He never revealed why he painted the image on his wall. And because of that, every generation discovers something different within it. Some see politics. Some see psychology. Some see religion. Others see a portrait of madness. Few paintings allow so many interpretations, while remaining so visually simple. Today, Saturn Devouring His Son hangs in the Prado Museum in Madrid, where thousands of visitors stop to stare at it every year. Many arrive expecting to see a famous masterpiece. What they encounter instead is something far stranger. A painting that feels almost modern despite being over 2 centuries old. A painting that continues to shock audiences in an age saturated with horror films and graphic imagery. And perhaps that is because the true horror of this work does not come from its violence. It comes from recognition. Saturn is not merely a monster from mythology. He is fear made visible. The fear of change. The fear of losing power. The fear of the future. And those fears are just as familiar today as they were when Goya first painted this nightmare on the wall of his home. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this painting is primarily about mythology, politics, madness, or something else entirely? And if there is a detail or interpretation that you think deserves more attention, be sure to share it below. If you enjoyed this exploration of one of history's most disturbing masterpieces, don't forget to subscribe to the Synapse for more fascinating stories from art, history, science, and the mysteries of our world. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.